Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Miha and welcome to the channel. It's been a while since I posted a video. Things have been a little bit busy at work. So I've put together a new schedule for this year. I plan to release a month in AI update at the end of every month where I'll highlight the developments that happened over the past few weeks that might be relevant to you. And in between those, I will still try to do deep dives on tools or best practices that might be directly applicable to our work. In today's video, we will discuss AI agents. Now, we did briefly touch on agents a few videos ago, but I wanted to revisit it because this year is the year of the agent. According to Microsoft, a lot of companies are pushing agentic AI. And I wanted to have a short conversation about what these tools are and the benefits they provide and some of the security implications that we are simply not discussing in enough depth. So what is an AI agent? Well, simply put, an AI agent is a tool that you ask to complete a certain task. You give it a high-level task. For example, analyze the market in toothpaste. And the tool will go conduct research on its own, collect sources, analyze the data, and put together some kind of an overview or report for you based on the data that it's found and based on the prompt that you provided. So the key difference between an agentic AI and a non-agentic AI is that the AI agent will not just give you an answer, but will actually do a lot of the background work for you, even when you're not quite sure what you're asking or how to ask a particular question. So imagine this scenario. You get an email from your boss asking you for financial results for the previous year or information about your new product or a client list. An AI agent would see that email, go into your files, pull out the relevant information, prepare an analysis and an overview, maybe even write a memo for you, write a draft email, prepare a slide or two if you're asked to do a presentation, and then ping you and say, hey, Miha, I've done all of this work. Here is a draft. So the human's role there is more to proofread, approve, and send. In other words, more of a supervisory role rather than directly working on the request which we received. Now, this is fantastic from the perspective of efficiency. This would save a lot of us a lot of time. And while these tools are powerful and provide a whole host of efficiency gains, there are also some very important cybersecurity implications that we need to discuss, and that frankly, we're not discussing in enough depth. There are a couple of attack vectors that malicious actors can use when we're using AI agents, and it's important to understand what those are and how they function, and to know what we can do about them. I will keep the next section non-technical, but you can find links in the video description below that link to more technical documents if you really want to understand how AI processes some of this data. One of the biggest risks with AI agents is prompt injection. Broadly speaking, there are two types of prompt injection. First is direct prompt injection. So going back to the email example, imagine you receive an email, but this time it is from a malicious actor. And in the email itself, they included prompt instructions for AI to collect all of your financials, all of your customer data, and then instead of sending it to your boss, sending to their email address, right? This can be a very effective way of exfiltrating data from your organization into the hands of malicious actors. The other type of prompt injection is called indirect prompt injection, and this is more of an invisible threat. So instead of putting malicious instructions in an email itself, those instructions could live somewhere outside of your organization, say on a website. Now, when you ask AI to do research on a market, say collect competitor pricing data, what it could do is end up on one of those web pages, read that data, interpret it as an instruction, and execute malicious code. For example, send your data, again, outside of your organization, download malicious software, or initiate a ransomware attack. Now, these are pretty significant threats, and all AI developers are aware of this. In fact, OpenAI has explicitly stated that prompt injection remains an open challenge and one that we will probably not be able to solve for a number of years. So what are some proposed fixes for this? Well, there are three kind of broad categories right now. Number one is using AI to check any data before your AI agent uses it. The problem there is that if a prompt is clever enough to bypass your AI agent security, it will surely be good enough to bypass whatever guardrails are built into the AI that's checking the data in the first place. Fix number two is the idea of using pop-ups and confirmations. So instead of an AI agent automatically going through all of your files, pulling out data, you would get a pop-up. Are you sure you want the agent to open this Excel file? Are you sure you want to give it access to this folder? Are you sure you want it to get access to this database? Are you sure you want to compile this report? Are you sure you want to send this to your boss? That can get tiring really quickly. In fact, click fatigue is a real thing. And we know that after a while, people will simply click OK, or maybe get too concerned and simply say no and stop the process. Also, if a prompt injection is done in a smart enough way, it could be designed in a way to bypass those prompts in the first place. And the third fix is to limit access. And here the idea is simple. I'll let an agent read my email, but not access any of my files. And that, of course, raises the question, well, the whole point of AI agents is to be able to pull all this data together. And now we're saying, no, you cannot use it. What happens to the efficiency gains? Are they significant enough to justify the investment? And solutions 2 and 3 are really just attempts at pushing the blame for any breaches onto the user and away from the tools. And you may be wondering, but does this really matter to me? Will hackers actually target individuals like myself? Won't they go after the large organizations because they have more resources? And the answer is yes. However, the cost of social engineering an attack that targets you or me has become marginal. And this is because there are AI tools available in the dark web that can do all of that work for the malicious actor. I've been the target of these myself as a board member, as a YouTuber, as a professor, as an individual. And I've noticed these attacks become more sophisticated and the emails become more and more believable over time. In other words, these scams are becoming industrialized. They can be done on a large scale, target many individuals with almost zero cost. And while the impact on individuals like ourselves may be small compared to the impact on a large organization, there's still the lost time of reformatting your laptop or installing everything, changing all of your passwords, and potentially dealing with banks if they got access to our banking information. So here is the advice that I can offer. To leaders, think about how quickly you want to adopt these tools and what data do you want to allow these tools to access. It may be worthwhile taking a step back, waiting and see how this plays out, perhaps wait for better security to be implemented around these tools before we rush ahead and implement these in all of our organizations. We have to be cognizant of the risks. As individuals, we should also remember that agentic AI is not just on the enterprise level, but also on the individual level. Browsers today are rolling out agentic AI. It's worth checking your version of Chrome or Edge and see whether or not your version already has agentic AI capability and whether that's enabled. And then ask yourself, do you really need this for your work? Personally, I've turned it off in my browsers because I cannot justify the security implications of using agentic AI. And there's also plenty of signals from AI developers themselves through heavy lobbying, through lawsuits regarding AI liability that all suggest that even the developers themselves are worried about the legal ramifications of getting something wrong around agentic AI. So what's the key takeaway here? Well, these are potentially very powerful tools with meaningful impact on productivity, but they do come with significant cybersecurity risks. As leaders, we need to weigh the risks versus the potential benefits much more carefully than we are doing it now. We should not just charge ahead into this agentic AI future. If you enjoyed this content, consider liking the video and subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.